All right, take two. Hello, I'm Colonel Michael Greenberg, the Fort Belvoir Garrison Commander. Apparently we were sideways on our first taking, and so apologize for that, and we will continue on with the virtual town hall. So as I was saying, this is our 17th virtual community Facebook town hall. That's the first time we showed up sideways, and so we never know what is in store for us. But these virtual forums provide us, allow us to continue updating the community on our recovery framework on combating coronavirus, and allow us to increase the availability of facilities and services available on the installation. We address questions that you post on this forum, so please to continue to tag us in your questions and use hashtag AskBelvoir. My public affairs staff, other garrison staff, the hospital staff, will use that forum also to answer your questions. Once again, I'm honored to be joined by my shipmate and battle buddy, Captain Cindy Judy, the director of the Fort Belvoir Community Hospital. I appreciate her support and the hospital staff on your continued support across the installation and to this town hall. We're experiencing some very warm weather this month, and we are still in our 101 critical days of summer. I just want to take time to remind everyone to be safe in this heat. Stay hydrated, be aware of the temperature, and check the heat index temperature before engaging in physical activities. Just in case you didn't know, you can find that information on our homepage of our website. Click the WBGT button, which stands for Wet Bulb Globe Temperature. As a reminder, Army Emergency Relief is having their special month-long fundraiser and campaigning to support our soldiers, families, and Soldiers for Life. I encourage you to continue supporting their efforts. It's a great example of the Army's nonprofit taking care of their own during these challenged times. I also encourage other service members to support their service relief agencies. I'm proud to say we've raised $95,000 over this month, and we are close to our goal of $110,000. Before I turn it over to Captain Judy, I just want to take a moment to share that after 15 months, we have officially opened the Pet Center on the installation, and we're calling it the Patriot Pet Care Center. We opened it last Friday with our ribbon cutting ceremony. The Pet Center offers grooming, boarding, and daycare services, and also a training program for your dogs. It's open to all military families and civilian personnel and retirees. Just drop your pets off and you can go to work. This is a long time coming. If you have other questions or you want to see our spotlight, I always like to tell you something from our newspaper. You can check the front page on this week's paper. We've outlined that pet care center. Also, I'm happy to announce that we will host our first family drive-in movie. So last town hall we talked about it. We weren't exactly sure or wanted to publish the movie or the location, but you can find all that information on our website. The movie is Dora and the Lost City of Gold. It's next Friday, July 31st. The price is $10 per car. We have limited car space. There's 60 spaces. We are not completely signed up, and so go out there and enjoy the movie. I will see you out there myself. Again, you could visit the Belvoir MWR website to get more information. Don't delay, spaces are going very quickly. So I will turn it over to Captain Judy for some updates.
Hey, thanks, Battle. Colonel Greenberg, I had the opportunity this past week to use the online visitor pass process here. My daughter came to visit, and she is no longer a dependent status and needed a visitor's pass. And so we got online and used that process, and your team was great. That is really a phenomenal thing that this organization has set up. And so kudos to the installation team for putting that together. We really appreciate that. I want to take a little bit of time. First of all, things are going very well at the hospital, right? We're still increasing the number of face-to-face appointments that we're doing. We still have virtual care available. The number of surgeries is increasing. So things are going well. We have plenty of opportunity for people to get the care that they need at the hospital. So I'll kick it off with that. But I continue to get lots of questions from patients and families regarding whether or not they should travel or they should have company who's visiting from out of the area. And I want to help today. I'm going to take a moment using some of the statistics that are available to everybody online to talk about how to read and interpret some of the COVID-19 statistics that you see on the various Department of Health websites, if that's okay. So we always talk about two things, right? When you watch in the media, you see that they'll talk a lot about the number of cases rising across the nation and throughout the world. And so that is true. So today I'm using the Virginia Department of Health. I haven't broken it down by Northern Virginia or the rest of Virginia or anything like that. I'm just, for display purposes, I'm using the Virginia Department of Health. And so this particular graph, you don't have to read the detail of it. I just want to show you that when they talk about the number of cases going up, that is true here in Virginia as well. This line right here is the number of cases going up. All those blue is the increase in cases, okay? And so what people often say, though, is, well, that's because we're testing more people. And I talked a little bit about this last time. And that's true. We are testing more people. So if you remember, way back in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of testing capability. And so we were only testing some people. And we weren't even testing all people who may have had one symptom, right? Back in the very beginning, you had to have some sort of history of possible exposure and a symptom, right? And so the amount of tests, the percent positivity was very high when we were testing very few, and we were really doing more screening before doing that testing. As we have, across the nation, built a better testing capability, we have opened the amount of testing that we're doing. So now we test people who are symptomatic, we're testing people with history of exposure, and we've pulled in a lot of what we call asymptomatic testing. Some of that is mission testing, right? So making sure people are cleared to go on missions. But even as we've opened up in the hospital, we test a lot of people prior to certain procedures, whether they're going to the OR, excuse me, or the dentist. We've increased the amount of testing of people who are just getting cleared for a certain procedure. So based on that, that's the increase in the testing. What we would expect to see with that is because many of those folks are not symptomatic, that the percent positivity would go down. So again, I'm going to show you Virginia Department of Health. This is the testing. Remember the case measures, the cases were going up. This is showing that the testing is increasing, and it's quite a bit. It's a huge increase in the amount of testing that we're doing. But what I want to show here is this little yellow line that looks relatively flat, right? Okay, that little yellow line demonstrates the percent positivity. So out of all of the people that were tested, what percent of them came back positive? And if you remember, back at the end of June, we talked about that, and we were looking for having it be steady or decline for a 2-week period before we started to, and when I mean we mean the installation, the state started lifting some restrictions. That's one of the metrics that they were using to lift those restrictions. And so back then, where they were at was they had about a 5% positivity at that time, okay? Now they're at a 7.9% positivity. So even though we're testing more people, what we would hope to see is that that percent positivity is going down. So I'm going back to cases for a second. Remember I said that we were at a 5% positivity and we've got an increase. Where our cases are currently, last week, we hit 1,057 cases on any given day last week, okay, in the state of Virginia. If we had the same percent positivity that we had back then, that 5% positivity, we would have been in the 700s for cases. So even though we're testing more people, because our percent positivity is going up, what we would have liked to have seen was, that percent positivity stayed the same and we only had 700 cases. Why does that matter to you? That matters because a lot of people think that it's artificial. What they're seeing in the news is artificial. And what I will tell you is we really expected, with all of the asymptomatic testing that was going on, to see a decrease in that percent positivity. So the virus is still out there. And as people travel more and more to different locations, then we're seeing mixing of populations once again and people bringing things back to the state of Virginia. I will tell you the good news story for Northern Virginia is that our percent positivity has done the exact opposite and it's gone down slightly. okay? But the rest of Virginia has gone up. And so, especially like down in the Hampton Roads area. So you can imagine there's a beach down there, Virginia Beach is down there, and so folks are traveling to those places. So as you take a look at the different State Department of Health, take a look at both what they're doing case-wise, and take a look at that percent positivity. It's available on most every Department of Health website now as they track all of those measures. That will help you make decisions about whether or not you should travel to a certain location, or whether or not you should allow guests to visit from a certain location. I know people are getting a little bit stir crazy with a lot of the restrictions of movement and the restrictions that have been in place. I know the military has their two-factor authentication, right, looking at a state and then looking at the installation in those areas. But there's a lot of other travel, leave and liberty travel, that people have questions about, and using those websites will help you make those decisions. I brought a special guest with me today, and that's Captain Werble. He is our Director for Behavioral Health. And so we often talk about how difficult it is for folks during this pandemic, feeling isolated and alone. And so I wanted him to talk a little bit about the dynamics of the pandemic and the resources that are available to folks here in this community.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate it, Colonel Greenberg, Captain Judy. Thanks for having me. And Fort Belvoir, hello. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I think for the next few minutes, just give me a big signal if I'm just going on too long, and I'll wrap up my remarks. But just think of me for the next few minutes as your garrison shrink. Right? I want to talk a little bit in the general aspect of what's going on right now. Everyone's feeling this, experiencing this. If you're paying attention to what's going on around you, this is a very unique time in our history. I think it would probably not be hyperbole to say that for those of us alive right now, this might be one of the most unique, most stressful times we've ever experienced in our lives. Right? We are entering a presidential election season this year. I think I'm not going to get political on you, so don't worry about that. But I think there's no question that if you're looking around like I am, we see increased polarization around the country. We're all experiencing what's been going on with racial tensions, and that's all layered on top of COVID, on top of what's been going on with this virus. So if sometimes you are feeling incredibly stressed out and overwhelmed, and you have days where you're feeling depressed and anxious, you're normal. Right? That's the first message that I want to make sure everybody takes away from this. You should be feeling all of those things. This is the strangest time that we're all living through. The most important thing to have at in your toolbox, right, is resilience. And we talk about resilience all the time. Let me unpack for you for a minute in what I would consider to be the top 5 things that are important when we talk about building your resilience that's going to help you handle this time period that's incredibly stressful. And really just those 5 things are sleep, getting good sleep, exercise, not rocket science here, right? Nutrition, eating right, engaging in enjoyable activities. It's a little bit limited, but it's not gone, right? We can enjoy activities, and good positive social interactions, right? Those are the 5 things that are really going to get you through this. Let me unpack that a little bit for you, right? So sleep is incredibly important. Really helps us with our impulse control and with mood regulation. And those are the first 2 things that are going to go when we're overwhelmed with stress nowadays, right? Impulsivity and mood regulation, right? So getting a good night's sleep is really going to help with those things. If you have a chance to Google sleep hygiene, Google sleep hygiene. That will really, there's all sorts of tips out there about how much time you should give between using your electronic devices and going to sleep, how much time you should give between intense physical exercise and going to sleep, different things like alcohol that can affect your sleep cycle. So Google sleep hygiene. I'm going to show you this, but this is not a paid advertisement. There are a lot of different apps out there that you can use for meditation and relaxation. I'm showing you this because this is the one that I use, right? Headspace, and this is what the app looks like when you download it from the stores. There's the Calm app. There's other apps, but all of these different relaxation and meditation apps. Most of them have free versions, and then there's paid versions, although different apps like Headspace are offering it free for certain segments of the population now, so you should look into whether or not that would cover you. But there's free versions, and using one of these and doing a little bit of guided imagery or relaxation can really help with the sleep and falling asleep if that ends up being a particular challenge for you sometimes. So that's what I wanted to say about sleep. Exercise, also incredibly important, right? It was really challenging. It's still challenging, but it was really challenging when we were all really staying inside almost all the time. Things have changed a little bit as we've learned more about COVID in terms of people getting outside and doing activities like biking and jogging, not just on treadmills in their houses, but getting out. There is a wonderful website. I think some of these might show up down there or over there. But if not, let me just show you this. It's what it looks like, right? Move Your Way. If you go on Instagram and you do hashtag Move Your Way, you'll come to a wonderful website. It's paamovewithus.org. That's part of health.gov, which is Health and Human Services. And there are resources like this about ways to get in good exercise, physical activity and exercise during COVID specifically for adults, for older adults, and for teenagers and for young kids. So lots of really great stuff out there on hashtag Move Your Way. So the next part is nutrition. And what I want to do is still steer you, actually, I don't have a card to show you on this one, but still steer you to that particular website for Department of Health and Human Services called health.gov, right? www.health.gov. They have a lot of wonderful information in there, not only about physical activity, but also about nutrition. I tell people all the time that if everyone in this country ate well and slept well and exercised, my workload would decrease significantly. So I encourage you to do that, and I'll get some more time off. Let me talk to you just a little bit more about enjoyable activities, right? Really important, and I think that was a real challenge for a lot of us when March came around and we all started the social distancing and isolating and staying away from everyone else, and many of us stayed at home for many months, and it's really hard to find ways to continue engaging in enjoyable activities when that's what's going on. There is an amazing organization that's out of Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and the Brain Science Institute there. And it's called the International Arts and Mind Lab. And they have put out a resource list. I don't know if that one's going on the website, but if it doesn't show up on the chat, I will get you the information in another way. But they put out wonderful lists of activities of things that you can do in dance, music and live concerts, arts and crafts, online with them, at home, all of which related to neuroscience that helps with finding enjoyable activities that you can do during this time of COVID. So I'd really encourage you to check out that Arts and Mind Lab. It's artsandmindlab.org, and they have what they call their COVID-19 neuroscience arts field guide, which is a wonderful tool. So lots of resources there. And then social interactions, right? Critically important. I wish that at some point the nomenclature of, and I don't know if you've had a chance to speak about this in the past at these town halls, the nomenclature of social distancing can have a lot of consequences, particularly in my field in behavioral health, right? We tell people all the time one of the best things that you can do for your resilience is social interaction, right? And social distancing sounds like you have to stop all of that. Of course, it doesn't mean that, right? Social distancing, we mean the physical distance between individuals, but there are still many ways, whether it's in person now or on Zoom or different platforms, to make sure you're getting good social interaction with family, with friends, and that's really also critical to developing resilience. So again, really, I want to stress those 5 things: sleep, exercise, nutrition, enjoyable activities, and social interaction, social relationships. Those are really important. A few other just specifics that I wanted to share. This is a particularly difficult time for folks in particular in recovery programs with drug and alcohol illnesses. There are a lot of online virtual recovery programs. This is a handout that will share a link with you from SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Association that's part of Health and Human Services, and it has all sorts of virtual resources for folks struggling with substance use issues. So I would definitely encourage you to check those out. Military One Source, of course, is an excellent resource. And then right here on Garrison, Army Community Services has classes. They're doing a lot of classes online and virtual at this point. But I would definitely reach out to Army Community Services if you have any concerns about all of the different programs that they have available here on Garrison. They're a wonderful resource. So I think that's really all I wanted to share today. And just encourage you all to kind of try and remember to focus. They're simple things, but we stop doing them in times of stress. So really focus on those 5 activities, and I think your resilience will be really strong.
Thanks, Dr. Werble. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Can we try to cut that mic just so we don't have that sound? All right, I think we're back good. Okay, so where are we right now today this week? So Fort Belvoir is still in health protection condition Bravo. We're considered an unrestricted green installation. So non-COVID related, but we had a storm last night. I know one of the topics was Penn's Gate closure. I appreciate everyone's patience, but as the storm came in, it knocked out and intruded that gate. We have worked all day, so we opened Lieber Gate today to offset some of the traffic. So Penn's Gate will be open back tomorrow morning at 05:30, back to normal hours. Lieber Gate that we opened today will close at 2100. 2100, and so that's a gate update. So some new openings or some new items. So our ID card facility now provides walk-in service on Thursdays only for military members, federal employees, and government contractors. Again, this is Thursdays only for walk-ins. The walk-in service has no online appointments. It's available from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the facility being closed from noon to 13:30, with the last customer before lunch checked in by 11:30. Appointments are still required for all other days and for all retiree and dependent ID cards, and those appointments can be made online. The PAO is posting the website information for appointments. So religious services. We have resumed a hybrid delivery service for religious services. So we are now doing those hybrid virtual and in person. Registration is required. We limit each of the services to 50 people. You can visit the RSO Facebook page for more information. I also want to thank our chaplain corps for all they have and are doing to continue to provide ministry and counsel to our Fort Belvoir community. Next week, July 29th, the Army Chaplain Corps celebrates its 245th anniversary. Thank you, chaplains, for all that you do in times of conflict, crisis, and peace. So Graves Fitness Center has been opened. It reopened its doors to active duty and first responders only. The North Pool resumed operations as well this week across from Woodlawn Chapel. It's open for active duty and first responders lap swimming only. Swimmers must adhere to the safety measures in place, which can be found on the Fort Belvoir MWR website. I've heard a couple of some feedback or some complaints in regards to retiree restrictions on the gym and on the North Pool. Safety is paramount as we continue our COVID-19 response. I understand the concerns of retirees regarding to wanting to access some of our facilities on the installation. But at this time, we simply are unable to increase use of the facilities to greater numbers than what we project from our active duty and government first responder population. Captain Judy kind of showed you some numbers. The virus is still out there and it's alive and well. So I continue to ask for your patience as we continue to push forward. Tennis courts are now open for your safety. Only play one-on-one tennis play and no doubles. Our child development centers are open for mission essential personnel, and we have expanded. We have expanded out to the priority tiers. Again, like we've talked about 2 weeks ago, we have 3 of our 5 child development centers open right now. We are continuing to expand the capacity of those. Every 2 weeks, we are inviting more families to join the Child Development Center programs. And so bear in mind that it is a slow process. However, we need to open up slow to make sure that we are protecting our workforce and our children. The golf course, outdoor rec centers, Castle Park, Soldier Statesman Park, Anderson Park, and the individual small pavilions are also open. Please remember, reservations are limited to 50 people at parks and 15 people at the pavilions. Also a reminder, we're at 50% seating, indoor seating, and outdoor seating is limited as well. Our community center, MWR Library, and Bazzelli's are open with additional safety measures. Please visit Belvoir MWR website for additional information regarding hours, services, etc. So our schools. So I know everyone was concerned about schools either the last time or the time before. I had Dr. King, the assistant superintendent here, talking about schools. I also know parents were forced to make a response to the school system. It was the 10th, they extended to the 15th of July. Those responses came back to the school. The school board met, I believe it was 2 days ago, for a very long session. They've made a decision that the school year will start September 8th. It'll be 100% virtual for the first quarter. The online instruction model will be the same, one offered to families in the recent survey. Please be sure to follow the Fort Belvoir and Fairfax County school social media sites and websites for all the latest information. Playgrounds. So I know playgrounds have been discussed. I know there's some unanswered questions, and I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook about playgrounds. And so we are going to open some playgrounds no later than 10 August. We're still working through the eaches, but the villages at Belvoir will open as many of them as possible across all the villages. I ask for your patience, as all playgrounds may not be open at the same time. Again, the safety of our population and our residents is paramount and is of the utmost importance. Now I'm going to turn it into our unanswered questions and also bring a couple of subject matter experts. So as DES is coming up, I want to answer a question about the exchange. So one of the questions was, when will Wood Theater reopen? The answer is it will open soon. So we do have the drive-in movie available for our population. We're looking at opening up in the next couple weeks. I don't have a date time group yet. APHES is still looking at it, and then once they come up with a plan and the conditions allow, they will brief the garrison and our recovery review board, and then we will put out dates, hopefully by the next town hall, which is not next Thursday, but it's 2 Thursdays from now. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Henschel to answer some of the DES questions.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have just one question that I'd like to address, and it's a question regarding foreign nationals. The question is, do foreign nationals with CAT cards, foreign military, contract, NAF personnel, need to complete any new forms to continue access to the post? The answer is yes. The requirements, the procedures for foreign nationals has changed recently. The requirements for foreign nationals who possess those DoD CAT cards, the ones with the blue stripe, or foreign dependents with a military ID card, will now have to provide some additional documentation from their command or sponsoring agency as to why they are entering Fort Belvoir. If it's a one-day appointment, a memorandum from the commander or an appointment slip from the hospital or such is sufficient. So provide those two forms to the guard and they will allow you on. If the foreign national will be accessing the installation for an extended period of time, the document from their command needs to state that period of time and the reason for the repeated access. They must provide the document to bring that to our visitor center, and where it'll be verified. At that time, we'll take that. We will then register their ID card into our AIE system, and that will allow the foreign national to have unimpeded access to the installation at all our gates for future visits until the expiration of the memo. Sir, that's all I have.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm going to bring CYS up next to answer some unanswered questions.
Good evening, thank you, sir. Question 1, does a DoD civilian parent and one mission essential parent get higher priority than a dual DoD? Question mark. This isn't fair that I have a mission essential spouse and I'm a DoD employee, but dual DoD gets priority over my mission essential spouse. Under the current HPCon guidance, limited child care spaces and group size restrictions currently available in the programs, Fort Belvoir CYS has a large demographics of dual mission essential families, which is why they have a higher priority. More information about priorities will be coming out shortly. Question 2, will the new hours for CYS services be maintained throughout the school year as well, with new Fairfax County Public School hours? How will these new CYS hours help our families when schools could be let out later than usual? At this time, CYS will continue with the current hours of care due to heightened HPCon restrictions to support the new COVID health and safety protocols. CYS is currently in the planning phase to support the upcoming school year's start of virtual schedule announced this week by Fairfax County Public Schools. Again, more information will be released in August. Thank you, sir.
All right, great. And before you turn back to me, if I could bring up DHR, the Director of Human Resources, to discuss some of those unanswered questions.
Good afternoon again, all. I do have a few questions to answer for you. First, is Belvoir accepting soldiers to PCS here? Yes, we are. However, I ask that you please reach out to your gaining organization change of command so that you can find out the proper onboarding procedures for your organization. Is it possible to drop off return CACs as well at your location vice going to the Pentagon or some other ID card facility? Yes, you can drop off return ID cards to our main facility on Middleton Road, adjacent the bowling center parking lot. I love this question. Would it make it easier if dependent IDs could be handled electronically? The service members with current ID could submit picture of an old ID, picture of their ID number, new photo to be used, and additional documents needed, then schedule a pickup. I recall doing anything in an ID office besides waiting to take a picture. Then you would only be backed up with getting active duty into the office. It's a great question. The response, the Department of Defense has reviewed a method as you suggested. It is still in the pending phase and we are waiting the final outcome, but great question. I want to move on to ID cards because I know that's right now to everyone's heart and major concern. I want everyone out there to know we are exercising various options and resources available to us to help mitigate the challenge of obtaining appointments in providing ID card support to the National Capital Region. You should be aware, pre-COVID-19, we were servicing 3,000 patrons a month on average. The volume of patrons now needing an ID card, due to all ID cards' expiration dates being extended out to 30 September, has certainly stressed the ability to obtain appointments in this region. We are hoping to hear from senior leadership soon if the 30 September expiration date for all ID cards will be further extended, as this will ease the burden of trying to obtain an appointment sooner than later. I'm also asking the community to help your fellow neighbors. If you are scheduling multiple appointments for yourself or family members or even friends, please cancel the appointments you are not using, that someone who needs an appointment may be able to get one and they could receive service. We appreciate your patience as we all do our best in trying to get through these unique times. Thank you. Subject to your question, sir.
All right, no, thanks. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I'm going to answer some of the housing unanswered questions. And so I think I answered the question about when playgrounds would reopen. Again, as many as we can open no later than 10 August. And again, more to follow. There was a question on why are the mayor meetings closed to the residents? Again, I think the mayor program is a really good program. I want to talk about the program one more time. I gave a lot of information last town hall. I provided some written information to residents through email. We had a great mayor meeting last night with the mayors and the unit reps. And please understand, the mayors is the in-between or the conduits between the garrison and the residents that live in each of the villages. And after last night, the mayors provided a lot of great feedback about some of the concerns in the villages, some of the great things happening in the villages. We had a great dialogue. We've come with some goals that we're going to achieve in the next 30, 60, 90 days. But I ask you to, again, start to use the mayor program. Each village has a mayor. If they have not reached out to you, they will reach out to you. If you have any questions, please ask your community director for the email address. But again, the emails all went out to each of the mayors online. The mayor meetings are closed. The mayor meetings are a closed meeting. The reason is we spend time to discuss the issues that the mayors bring up, and it's a very focused conversation, and we get through a lot of information. So again, the new garrison commander will be here next month. If he decides to change that, that will be his decision. I believe the mayor meeting went very well last night. We got a lot of great information established. There was a question that talked about what's the plan to address the systematic mold issue on post-housing. I understand that there are concerns out there. If you have mold issues, please reach out, put a work order and reach out to housing immediately. The plan is for the villages at Belvoir to inspect 100% of our houses each year. So they do that in two mechanisms. They do that through a transitioning home, meaning one service member moves out, the house turns, it gets fixed up, there's an inspection that's done on the house, and then someone else moves into the house. That's one mechanism that covers some houses. What the Village of Belvoir had implemented is a preventive maintenance inspection as well. And so the remaining of the homes will get a once a year preventive maintenance inspection. What I ask the residents out there is to please allow the inspectors and the maintenance folks to come in and inspect your house. Again, if they don't do that, they can't do the preventive maintenance that needs to be done yearly. And so again, that will address some of those challenges. But again, if you see the issue in your house, please reach out and get those concerns taken care of. So there was a question on escalation, and who do we talk to? There was an example of air conditioning that stopped working in the question. Okay, and so I want to use our newspaper again. So in the newspaper, on the second page, this page has been dedicated for the last 3 to 4 months on housing. And so we use this page. This week, we talked about the village's energy initiative underway, but also typically in the bottom left corner is this escalation, levels of escalation. We've talked about it, but we haven't talked about it in a while. And so please use those. So the first is to submit your work order. Once you submit your order, so for the question about the air conditioning going out and it being 90 degrees outside, it's an emergency work order. And the question was, well, when do I move to level 2 or level 3? Okay, so it's an emergency work order. It should be responded to at a phone call within an hour, and fixed within 4 hours. So the answer is if you don't get a response to the air conditioning in the first hour and it fixed in 4 hours, you would move to level 2. Level 2 is to make contact with 3 different people. First, you contact the DPW housing chief, Mr. Brian Smith. 2, you would contact the assistant director for the community, Villages of Belvoir, which at this point is Jen Hudson, or Diane or Jennifer Watkins, are the 3 here at Villages of Belvoir. And the third person or third people that you contact is your chain of command. And again, I can't stress enough, if you have challenges out there, please use your chain of command as well to come in and promulgate on your behalf. If it's the middle of the night and you have an emergency, so again, please use common sense. If your air conditioning is out and it's 50 degrees out, I understand it's an emergency, but if you dial the Garrison hotline, and again, I will volunteer my deputy, my command sergeant major, myself, or my XO don't mind being called at 2 in the morning if there's an emergency. But please understand it's one of us 4 that will answer the phone. And so if you tell me your air conditioning is out and it's 40 degrees or 50 or 60 or 70 degrees, I'm probably not going to make a phone call. I'll probably wait till 6 in the morning to make a phone call. But again, that's one example. That third level of escalation is either to use the ICE feedback, or to use that hotline. And again, I just told you normally the 4 people that answer that. The only exception is during the day. That phone stays in my headquarters, and so it's one of my staff that will answer that phone. The last question I want to answer before we go to other questions from viewers was a question about the NDAA and tenant bills of rights and implementation date or expected implementation date here on Fort Belvoir. So as you know, the NDAA was not self-executing, but required the SecDef, the Secretary of Defense, to provide implementing guidance. So on 25 February 2020, the SecDef issued the Military Housing Privatization Initiative Tenant Bill of Rights and the corresponding tenant responsibilities. In fact, the SecDef committed the DoD to implementing 15 of the 18 rights that were outlined, no later than 1 May. The remaining 3 rights, which was access to homes maintenance history, the right for or the dispute resolution process, and the rent withholding pending dispute resolution, remain the subject of ongoing work at the Secretariat level in conjunction with RCI. On 1 June 2020, OSD released a memo indicating full implementation was not yet achieved. We received at the Garrison from our higher headquarters on 2 July an order to further implement the Tenant Bill of Rights, and I'm happy to inform you that with the implementation provided by our chain of command, we have placed, or I think it has been placed today or will be placed on our Fort Belvoir specific Tenant Bill of Rights briefing on our Fort Belvoir Garrison page, and I'm getting a thumbs up, and so I believe that has been posted today. And so please read through those, and then we'll be happy to answer more questions about those at a future date. Okay, with that, I believe we have a couple questions.
Yes, sir. I heard ID card age for dependents went up to 14. Is the commissary aware?
Okay, I can't answer that for the commissary. However, I will take that question and we will send that to the commissary manager and make sure the commissary is aware of that. Thank you for the question.
Can the military personnel division update their clearing paperwork? Most numbers and addresses are inaccurate, and update it with a cover sheet of how to clear by email and phone.
Okay, I'll let Mr. Rennick answer that as he's walking up though. But the takeaway, whatever he tells you, which I know it'll be good, is make sure you use your Unit S1s. The Unit S1s are the belly button for the clearing process. Acknowledge that some of the emails and phone numbers need to be updated. We will work on that. I will provide Mr. Rennick an opportunity to respond.
So thank you for the question. I do want
Turn the
to
mic on.
acknowledge. Can you hear me? Thank you for the question. I do want to just inform all of you that we, within the Military Personnel Division, personally went out to every entity that's on the in and out processing checklist. We've done this a couple of times just to ensure that the information provided by all entities in which you have the in process or out process has provided us with updated methods in which they will clear you. Now, the process for in and out processing is virtual. There is minimal reasons in which you have to physically go to an entity for in or out processing. However, if you find any challenges as it pertains to your process, as the commander alluded, please contact your local S1 or G1 who have been provided consistently updated information as it pertains to the in and out processing process. I do apologize for the inconvenience you're having. However, this issue was brought to my attention earlier, and I ensured that my staff personally went around to update that information. So if you're not getting it, I ask that you reach out to maybe your higher level chain of command that maybe can ensure that your S1 is getting what we're providing to them to assist you. But thank you.
Thank you very much for answering the question. Okay, I believe there's no other questions out there at this point. I want to thank Captain Judy for joining me for 17 weeks of the town hall. I also want to thank our subject matter experts. So Dr. Werbel, today we've had multiple come here. We had the county executive come here. We had the assistant superintendent come here. You had some others on your staff. And then my staff has come out multiple times. Between the directors of all our agencies have been out here. And everyone who's online that you don't see here. It takes a team effort across the board to help answer those questions. I know there's more questions out there, but most of them get answered by the staff behind the scenes. But thank you for supporting this virtual town hall each and every week. We have extended it now every other week. And so I'm going to turn it over to Captain Judy for any closing remarks.
I just almost have a couple public service announcements, if you will. One, I don't know if folks are aware, but some of the services, I have the benefit of having all the services work at Fort Belvoir Community Hospital. So the services have started publishing guidance for people wearing their cloth face covering while in uniform. And the bottom line is that it's becoming a little bit more restrictive in what you can wear. Early on, when the stores were closed and there wasn't a lot of access to anything, the mentality was just wear something, right? Whether it was a bandana or whatever. But the services are starting to publish guidelines that say, hey, you need to have a neutral color with no logos or writing or patterns, other than if you have one that you've had made out of the same pattern as the uniform that you wear, then that's acceptable. So I just encourage everybody to take a look at those service guidelines that are coming out, because I know folks are getting stopped by other units at times when they're out and about regarding that, and I don't want people to get caught by that. A couple of shout outs to two groups at the hospital team that I just think that the community needs to have a little bit of understanding and recognition for. We have continued the curbside pharmacy, and so far we will continue that mission. It's popular, it's safe, and it's what we need to do during these times. But I want to recognize that team that's doing that. It's not only just pharmacy staff, but there are a lot of personnel that are pulled from other areas in the hospital, and they've managed to do that in this blistering heat and in the rain, making sure that they could still continue that curbside process. And so it's been challenging for that team at times, and I just want to recognize all of their efforts. The same holds true for that drive-up testing site in the back of the hospital for that COVID testing. So it has not been the most comfortable few weeks back there in the heat and in the rain. And they continue to offer those services, and I want to recognize them because they're doing a phenomenal job with that. The last thing I just want to talk about is, this shift to this virtual start of school is challenging for a lot of families. But one of the things I'd like to emphasize today is that I fear that a lot of families might not go through with the process of getting a school physical when their child isn't physically going to go to school. And what I will tell you is, school physicals are a great opportunity. It ties kids of a certain age and a certain grade level to a wellness visit that's required, okay? So I encourage folks to continue to get those school physicals. I'm not sure what the school system will do with that particular requirement at this time. I hope that they continue it, but I need people to know that even though school will be virtual, those school physicals are tied to age-related wellness requirements to make sure that your child is on track in their growth and development and getting any immunizations that will keep them safe. So please, if your child is due for a school physical, call and make an appointment. Our appointment line is 855-227-6331. And that's the central appointment line, 855-227-6331. I want to thank you and your team. The storms were a little crazy this week. I saw the crew out there removing all of the trees. They're doing a great job. I see that the gate has reopened again. And I think that your team is doing a fantastic job. And I know your tour is coming to an end. I'm not going to say goodbye because I think that you've got one more town hall.
I do have one more town
so
hall.
I will leave the farewells to the next one and just thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so as we wrap up, and Captain Judy kind of changed her format. She usually thanks at the beginning and I thanks at the end, but we're both going to thank at the end today. So again, as always, I want to thank everyone for supporting the installation. So to the hospital, thank you for the continued support, not just to the garrison, not just to looking at areas every week, but also all the services that you provide to this installation. To all the garrison employees, the first responders, i.e. the firefighters, the police, the guards, the hospital first responders, thank you for what you do each and every day. For our CDC workers, for all our government civilian workers that make this installation work, and all our contractors that continue to provide support for this installation. We can't do it without your support each and every day. So whether you're here physically supporting the installation or you're home virtually teleworking and supporting the installation, thank you for what you do each day to make this community safe and to make it run properly. Thank you for all those that have participated. Some are routine participators. 17 times have listened to Captain Judy and I talk. I know sometimes it may get a little crazy, maybe we get a little boring, but again, I think these have been very productive over these last 17 weeks. So thank you for listening, whether this is your first time or your 17th time. Thank you for continuing to listening. These videos are posted on our Facebook page located in the video section. Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate them because it only makes us a better organization. Stay up to date with the reopening Belvoir by going to our homepage at our website at home.army.mil/Belvoir and following Fort Belvoir Facebook and Twitter pages. Again, remember, we're all in this together. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks on August 6th. Thank you and have a great afternoon and evening.